Hey friends, the last few hours could change the course of world history forever. Imagine this: the United States of America is preparing to launch military strikes on Iran as early as the coming days, or even this weekend. But President Donald Trump still hasn't made the final decision. Is this a bluff? Real preparation for a major war? Why right now? What are the risks? And what does this mean for each of us? For gas prices, for Ukraine, for Israel, and for the entire Middle East. Stay with me until the very end, because we're going to break it all down, shelf by shelf, with facts, sources, historical context, and predictions that will surprise you. If you're not subscribed to the channel yet, do it right now and turn on notifications. Videos like this don't come out often. And hit that like button already if you want us to keep doing deep geopolitical breakdowns. Ready? Let's jump straight to the point. No fluff. Over the past 24 hours, several of the biggest American media outlets, CNN, CBS, Reuters, the New York Times, and even Haaretz, dropped exclusive reports based on sources inside the White House and the Pentagon. The core message is the same. U.S. military officials have told Trump they are fully ready to strike Iran as soon as Saturday or Sunday, literally in 2 or 3 days. But the final word is with the president. Trump is spending a lot of time thinking this decision over and hasn't given the green light yet. Why is this so important? Because this isn't just another threat, not just a tweet. This is real military preparation that's already in full swing. The second aircraft carrier, USS Gerald R. Ford, is heading to the Persian Gulf to join USS Abraham Lincoln. Dozens of additional fighter jets, F-35s, F-22s, and F-16s, have already been redeployed to the region. Thousands of troops have been repositioned, and the Pentagon is even temporarily pulling some personnel off bases to protect them from possible Iranian retaliation. Friends, this is the level of buildup we saw before the operation against Soleimani in 2020. But now the scale is much bigger. And this isn't just words. This is reality unfolding right now. But hold on. Before we dive deeper into the details, let me explain why this news didn't come out of nowhere and why the situation has reached this breaking point exactly now. It all started back at the end of 2025, when massive protests erupted in Iran over the economic crisis and the collapsing rial. The regime responded with brutal suppression. By various estimates, over 6,000 protesters were killed, and more than 11,000 cases are still under investigation. Trump then publicly declared that if the killing of protesters continued, help was already on the way. But later he stepped back and switched to Plan B. Maximum pressure plus negotiations at the same time. Military buildup in the region and diplomacy through Oman and Switzerland. But the talks in Geneva this week ended without a breakthrough. Iran asked for 2 weeks to prepare proposals, and the Americans say the sides' positions are very far apart. And here we come to the key point. Trump made it crystal clear: if there's no deal, bad things will happen. He said this today at the first meeting of his new Board of Peace Council, and added that you'll likely find out about the decision on Iran within the next 10 days. Friends, 10 days isn't eternity. It's a very short window when the military is already in position. Now let's break down why Trump is even considering the military option, and back it up with facts. First, Iran's nuclear program. According to intelligence data, Iran is already enriching uranium to levels close to weapons grade. And if not for the previous strikes in June 2025, when nuclear facilities were hit, Iran could have had nuclear weapons within just 1 month. This isn't my invention. These are Trump's own words today. He said straight out that the key is to deprive Iran of nuclear potential. Second, the protests and crackdown. Trump sees this as an opportunity to weaken the regime and possibly even help bring about regime change. He's already stated that Iran shouldn't be killing its own citizens. Third, pressure from Israel. Netanyahu and his team are in full combat readiness, and believe only tough actions can stop Iran. Fourth, American domestic politics. Trump promised his voters he'd be tough on Iran and not let them have nuclear weapons. If he backs down now, it'll look like weakness, and Trump hates looking weak. Now let's analyze the military aspect in more depth. What exactly could the Americans hit? According to Reuters, the Pentagon is preparing not just for one strike, but for a possible prolonged campaign lasting weeks, which would include not only nuclear sites, but also IRGC facilities, ballistic missile bases, and even state institutions. This is no longer a limited strike like when Soleimani was killed in 2020. This is something much more serious. Right now, they plan to use bases in Diego Garcia and in Britain at the Fairford airfield. And that's exactly why Trump today pressured the UK to allow use of their bases. Otherwise, he might refuse support for their Chagos Islands deal. See how everything is connected? Geopolitics is chess. Every move has consequences. And now, the most important part I promised to break down in detail. What will the consequences be if Trump actually pushes the button? First, oil and the economy. The Persian Gulf accounts for 20% of the world's oil. If Iran closes the Strait of Hormuz even for a few days, oil prices could skyrocket to $200 per barrel. Gasoline in the States and Europe will get way more expensive. This will hit ordinary people's wallets, drive up inflation, and slam the global economy. Second, Iran's response. Tehran has already said they're ready for war and has proxies like Hezbollah, the Houthis, and Shia militias in Iraq. They could attack U.S. bases in the region, Israel, and even oil facilities in Saudi Arabia. This is the risk of a major regional war. Third, impact on Ukraine and Europe. If America gets bogged down in a new war in the Middle East, aid to Ukraine could decrease. Russia and China will just rub their hands because Washington's attention will shift, and Putin will get more freedom of action. Fourth, humanitarian crisis in Iran itself. A new strike will only worsen the suffering of ordinary Iranians and could lead to even greater chaos or even civil war. But let's be honest, there's the other side of the coin, why many experts believe a strike could still be justified. First, preventing nuclear weapons in the hands of a regime that sponsors terrorism. This is an existential question for Israel and stability in the entire region. Second, previous negotiations with Iran have never worked long-term. The JCPOA of 2015, which Trump tore up in his first term, showed that Iran uses time to keep enriching uranium. Third, Trump already proved in his first term that tough policy works. After Soleimani's killing, Iran didn't dare respond full scale, and now he might count on a similar effect. But only if the strike is fast and powerful. Now, let's do a quick historical detour so you fully understand the context. In 2018, Trump pulled out of the nuclear deal with Iran and launched maximum pressure. Sanctions hit Iran like a hammer. The economy collapsed. Oil exports halved. But Iran didn't give in. They started enriching uranium beyond limits, attacked tankers, shot down a U.S. drone. And in January 2020, after the attack on the embassy in Baghdad, Trump ordered Soleimani's elimination. The whole world was on the brink of major war, but Iran responded symbolically, and the conflict fizzled out. Now history is repeating itself, but with higher stakes. Iran's internal crisis is deeper. The regime is weaker. Trump is more experienced, and he has Israel's full support. Friends, now let's talk about what's going on inside the Trump administration. According to White House sources, Trump is spending a lot of time in deep thought. He's getting briefings from Marco Rubio, national security advisors, and his special envoys like Steve Witkoff, and even Jared Kushner, who has good contacts on the Iranian side. On one hand, he wants a deal because it would be a huge diplomatic win for his second term. On the other, he can't let Iran have nuclear weapons. That contradicts his entire America First doctrine. And that's why today he said, We have to make a meaningful deal, otherwise bad things will happen. He added that maybe we have to take one more step, or maybe not. You'll find out within the next 10 days. This is classic Trump style. Now let's break down the possible scenarios. Scenario number 1, diplomatic breakthrough. Iran gives acceptable proposals in 2 weeks on limiting enrichment, missile programs, and proxies. Trump accepts the deal, and the world breathes a sigh of relief. But in my opinion, the probability is no more than 30%. The positions are too far apart. Scenario number 2, limited strike on nuclear and missile sites. Iran responds asymmetrically through proxies. The conflict lasts a few weeks, but doesn't turn into full-scale war. Scenario number 3, full-scale campaign lasting weeks, aimed at changing the regime's behavior or even helping bring it down. This is the riskiest option and could lead to a major war with unpredictable consequences. And this very scenario is being actively discussed in the Pentagon right now. And now the most interesting part for you as viewers. What does this mean specifically for you? If you live in Ukraine, the risk of reduced American aid is real. If America gets stuck in Iran, resources will be redirected. If you're in Europe, get ready for rising energy prices and possibly a new wave of migrants. If you're in America, gas prices and inflation could ruin the Republicans' mood ahead of the 2026 midterms. But there's a positive side too. If Trump manages to force Iran into a real deal, it will be a huge success for stability around the world. Friends, I want you to actively join the conversation. Write right now in the comments what you think. Should Trump strike Iran? Or is it better to keep negotiating? Is this a bluff or a real threat? Your opinions are very important to us, and we read every comment. Also, if you want us to make a separate video about how this crisis will affect Ukraine specifically, or oil prices, write it in the comments, and we'll definitely do it. Now let's summarize everything we broke down today. The United States is at military readiness number 1. Iran has received an ultimatum. Trump is holding a pause for reflection, but time is ticking. In a week or two, everything could be decided. And this decision will affect not only the fate of the Middle East, but the global economy and even the situation in Ukraine. If you liked this in-depth breakdown video, hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, turn on notifications, and share this video with friends who are into geopolitics. The more of us there are, the more high-quality content we can create for you. Thank you for staying with me until the very end. You're the best audience in the world. Take care of yourselves, and see you in the next video where we'll continue following this story in real time. Trust me, it's only just beginning.